You're watching This Week in Louisiana Politics with Fred Childers.
Good morning, I'm Fred Childers. Hope you're having a great weekend. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. We have a great show for you, so let's get started. The Louisiana legislature got national attention for a bill that looked to make abortion considered a homicide. On Thursday, the full House took a vote on that bill, and it will not move forward this year. Political reporter Shannon Hecht breaks down the debate for us.
Representative Danny McCormick and supporters of his bill were unyielding in their desire to completely ban abortion and prosecute anyone who takes part in one.
You can't claim to be pro-life and vote to kill HB 13 by amendment. If you're pro-life and believe that life begins at conception, and you must stand for equal protection of the preborn.
As soon as the bill made it out of committee, it was under intense scrutiny. Some language in the bill could lead to people taking part in IVF being charged with homicide. It also has the potential to ban some forms of birth control. The bill would have forced the state to ignore Roe v. Wade even before it could possibly be overturned.
Your bill clearly violates this separation of powers doctrine.
Even anti-abortion groups like Right to Life came out against the bill. Governor John Bel Edwards, a staunch anti-abortion Democrat, also said he was against it. One representative even apologized for allowing the bill to get out of committee. After a brief evacuation for a potential bomb threat that ended in an all clear, the bill was severely amended on the House floor in hopes to tamper it down.
If passage of House Bill 813 would prevent one abortion, I would not be standing here right now. But this bill will not prevent a single abortion from occurring.
The amendments made it similar to a Senate bill that penalizes doctors who perform abortion should Roe v. Wade be overturned. In the end, the amendment was tacked on and McCormick pulled the bill. At the Capitol for your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
While the bill was pulled by McCormick, a bill by Senator Katrina Jackson is still working through the legislature, which is similar to what McCormick's was amended to. It is waiting to be heard in a House committee. We'll follow that bill as well. In a rare procedural vote, the House of Representatives has decided to bring back Louisiana's version of what some call the Don't Say Gay bill. Representative Raymond Cruz of Bossier City invoked a vote to recommit the bill to a committee of the whole, which would be a full House floor debate. The bill had previously been voted down in committee last week. The bill looks to ban classroom discussions around gender identity and sexual orientation. It also would ban teachers from talking about their own identities. The special committee investigating the death of Ronald Greene has voted to hold the former head of the Louisiana State Police in contempt. Colonel Kevin Reeves refused to turn over pages of notes taken during meetings regarding Ronald Greene and the actions of the troopers the night Greene died in police custody. Chairman Tanner McGee was able to look through some of the subpoenaed pages, but was stopped on some parts by Reeves' lawyer. The hope is the pages they are withholding will explain why troopers were not put on leave following Greene's death.
Assume, because I've never seen the entire journal, I'm having to rely on Colonel Reeves' attorney that's what it is, since I've never seen the entirety of it. So, but they clearly note that Colonel Reeves was aware, that he was concerned about what happened.
Now, Reeves could be facing a civil fine of $5,000. A hearing will be held on May 26th to allow Reeves to explain why they should not proceed with the charge. Louisiana's economy is once again performing better than originally predicted, and now there are hundreds of millions of dollars extra in the budget that need to be spent. Shannon Hecht breaks down what economists predict comes next.
Economists told the Revenue Estimating Conference that they're projecting an additional $350 million to go into the state general fund for fiscal year 2022. Now starts the debate of what to spend that money on. The excess dollars are now in play for the budget that has yet to be passed in the remaining weeks of the legislative session. Part of why there is extra money is due to high collection of sales tax.
FY22 is shaping up as being a good revenue year. The question is, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, is this the new baseline, or is it somewhat of an anomaly.
There has been talk of a fiscal cliff looming with that economic growth slowing and the half-cent sales tax rolling off. But state economists say they don't believe it will be as severe as some say, and certainly not a recession.
It's going to continue positive growth, but at a slower rate for the next through calendar 23. And in the middle of about fiscal 24, we'll level off to our somewhere close to our typical inflation.
But there will be a leveling out of growth, which makes some nervous to increase the teacher pay raises from $1,500 to $2,000. The Speaker of the House says that the budget is now in the hands of the Senate, so it'll be up to them to decide the next steps on if that teacher pay raise will be increased more like how the governor wants it. And he'll wait and see what the move is on that side of the chamber. At the Capitol for your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
Louisiana's highest court prepared to weigh in on Louisiana's relatively new law banning non-unanimous juries, looking to answer the question, should it be applied to older cases? That's next. Stay with us.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Louisiana's Supreme Court heard arguments on whether a ban on non-unanimous jury verdicts must apply to convictions before 2018. Now, this could affect roughly 1,500 people behind bars currently. But this case centers on Reginald Reddick, who was convicted by a jury 10-2 of a murder back in 1997. Advocates say this was the last Jim Crow law in Louisiana, saying it is the people's constitutional right to have a new trial.
This is where justice can be done. This is where Louisiana can finally end Jim Crow in Louisiana. I was born in Louisiana. I was bred in Louisiana. Louisiana is better than Jim Crow. Yes. We can defeat it right here, right now. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Now, the state argues the cost to retry these convictions would be significant and could be emotionally traumatic for the victims and their families. The legal fight over Louisiana's congressional map is now underway. The first court hearing started Monday as civil rights groups are pushing to have another majority black district added. The suit came after lawmakers overrode a veto by the governor. Advocates say the current map severely weakens black votes. Experts have been brought in with alternatives that shift the district lines, giving 2 districts a black majority.
The redistricting process in Louisiana is still underway because we're here. Not solely about political candidates and who wins elections. It's about federal funding. It's about schools. It's about advocating for, disaster relief.
Now, this hearing could block those maps from being used in upcoming elections. Republicans have chosen Louisiana Congresswoman Julia Letlow to fill an open seat on the very powerful House Committee on Appropriations. That committee controls the purse strings for the federal government. Letlow said, quote, "Holding this seat is an opportunity to ensure that our region and state can receive the resources that are desperately needed for our critical priorities. This move could also create issues if the congressional maps are made to be redrawn, as many break up Letlow's district to create a second majority minority district." Also in Washington, a $40 billion aid package for Ukraine has stalled out on the Senate floor. The bill was passed initially by the House, with Congressman Garrett Graves, Clay Higgins, and Michael Johnson voting against that bill. Congressman Graves says his reasoning behind not voting for the bill was, in part, last-minute changes in the price tag. He also tried to add amendments that were shot down. Now, Graves had plenty to say about Ukraine. He also takes aim at the Biden administration for gas prices and inflation, calling leaders totally unprepared. We'll talk to the congressman next.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back to This Week in Louisiana Politics. We are joined by U.S. Congressman Garrett Graves. He is a Republican from Louisiana. Thanks for coming on the show, Congressman.
You bet. Thanks for having us back.
Well, we have lots to talk about. We have several issues we want to cover. But first up, I want to get your response to President Biden canceling the offshore oil and gas leases in the Gulf of Mexico. Is this a bad time?
Fred, it's just inexplicable. I mean, we're experiencing right now the highest gasoline prices in American history. And rather than coming in and actually trying to solve the problem, trying to actually help out the American economy, decrease inflation, make the ability to refuel your car affordable, they're doubling and tripling down on the very policies that have caused these record prices. Not only are they canceling some of these lease sales, but they're also increasing by 50% the amount of money that you have to pay to the government for energy production in the United States, out of whack with what you're seeing in other countries. All these moves are doing is further helping out people like Vladimir Putin, China, Iran, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia. It is baffling to me that you have people that can look at what is going on right now with United States energy policy and think that these types of decisions make sense.
So with this move, do you predict that it will have a direct result and we will see gas prices go up?
I think you're going to continue to see gas prices rise during the summer, particularly diesel.
All right, let's move on to the Ukraine. On Tuesday, the U.S. House passed a $40 billion aid package for Ukraine. This is to help Ukraine fight Russia. You voted no on this. Why?
Fred, I've been to Ukraine. I've been to Poland. I've spoken to Ukrainian refugees. What is happening in Ukraine is absolutely awful. It is unacceptable to have just a thug like Vladimir Putin going in and invading these sovereign countries like he's doing. And the Ukrainian military deserves our support. The Ukrainian people deserve our support. Here's the problem. We have already provided tens of billions of dollars in assistance to Ukraine in the form of military aid, humanitarian aid, other assistance in terms of positioning, for example, the 82nd Airborne right there at the border in Poland. All kinds of assistance we're offering. Last week, they said it was going to be $30 billion. We come in town on Tuesday and Pelosi, within hours of arriving, introduces a bill that is $40 billion. It doesn't have sufficient detail. All it talks about is how we're going to shovel billions and billions of dollars out the door. And here's the thing. This is money for housing, money for food, medical assistance, all sorts of things that people right at home in Louisiana need as well as a result of Hurricane Ida. We were able to get an initial tranche of funds 1 month after Hurricane Ida to provide assistance. We knew it wasn't going to be enough, but it was a down payment. It was to try to get things started. But that was back in September. It is now May, and we have been trying to get additional funds. So we did two things. Number one, we offered an amendment in terms of Ukraine and said, look, you've left $10 billion in United States military equipment, tanks, helicopters, all sorts of arms and munitions in Afghanistan that the Taliban is out there right now pilfering. We need to go collect those American assets, those American military assets and advanced technologies. Give those to Ukraine. Don't give them to the Taliban. Give them to the Ukraine military. Secondly, we offered a second amendment that would put $3 billion, redirect $3 billion in international disaster assistance, direct a portion of that to Hurricane Ida and other disaster victims right home in the United States. We've got to make sure we're taking care of our own people first. I think the lack of accountability, the lack of transparency on the Ukrainian dollars, combined with the fact that they rejected our amendments, sending the U.S. military equipment in Afghanistan over to Ukraine and rejected our amendments on Hurricane Ida and other disaster aid. That's why we voted no. It was the right vote. Not at all opposed to helping Ukrainian military or people, but not while just completely ignoring the needs of our own citizens.
They rejected your amendments. You also mentioned that they kind of sprung it on you.
They did. The bill was introduced within hours of arrival back into Washington on Tuesday. Again, it was $10 billion more than we had discussed just the previous week. There was no indication as to why, no clear justification. The bill, all it does is, for example, says we're going to provide $4.3 billion in international disaster aid without any type of real explanation. Got an $8 billion program. I mean, just $4 billion program. All of these dollars, just these top line numbers, without any type of detail on what the funds are going to be used for, what the accountability mechanism is, ensuring that this equipment and dollars get to the true people in need, and how in the world they landed at around $40 billion, a round figure, is really just, I think it's very concerning. And I can't say it enough. I am very supportive of providing help to the Ukrainian military in concert with other countries and the Ukrainian people, but not this type of irresponsible spending that is going to contribute to the already explosive inflation numbers that we've seen in the United States.
All right, and you said it, inflation. Let's talk about inflation. We just got some new numbers out this week. Any relief in sight?
No, and it's similar to energy, Fred. There's no plan, there's no strategy coming out of the White House right now, which is really unfortunate. I have never in my lifetime seen a White House cabinet officials that appear so wholly unprepared for the jobs that they're in. This is just, it is amazing to me. We've got worker shortage issues. You've got millions of Americans that still haven't returned to work. The workforce participation rate's well below where it needs to be. In excess of 4 million workers haven't returned to the workforce. 11 million jobs open available right now. The supply chain problem, there is nothing going on out of this administration trying to address some of the supply chain issues. If we haven't learned anything from this Putin invasion of Ukraine, we've got to have a secure supply chain. We've got to produce more things domestically. We cannot rely upon China and some of these other countries that are always going to do things in their own self-interest. These are huge mistakes. And unfortunately, we're seeing President Biden just double and triple down on these bad policies that we should have reversed long ago. And so I think one of the major contributing factors to inflation is what's going on in energy. Look, it doesn't matter if you're a retiree, if you're a high schooler driving yourself to school. It doesn't matter if you're ordering things off of mail order or through the internet. Every single one of those, if you're getting on an airplane, if you're getting on a train, all of these things are affected by the higher energy prices. And this is one of those things that really just reverberates through the economy, no matter what sector you're in. We've got to get energy prices under control. And by continuing to stop, shut down, prevent domestic oil and gas production, and shutting down mines and other things that are producing minerals for renewable energy production. This administration's energy policy is no to everything, and the prices you're seeing today is exactly what happens when you carry out these flawed strategies, and of course the major influence on why we're seeing record inflation.
So President Biden has said he's getting lots of criticism from you Republicans, but he says you guys haven't come to the table with any solutions. I imagine you disagree with that?
Which is unbelievable. I've introduced bills. We've introduced packages of bills. I'd invite the president to visit our website where we've got all of the legislation that we've introduced. We've asked him, going back to January of last year when he started signing executive orders banning new energy production, we started sending him letters, started introducing legislation that lay out exactly what needs to happen to address these things. I'd invite the president to visit our website. We've got it all laid out, and he can just simply follow that blueprint, and it'll help return America to prosperity.
All right, Congressman Garrett Graves, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Looking ahead to the coming week, we are entering the third to last week of the legislative session. It's the week many see as the last chance to get bills moving through the legislature before time runs out. Also this week, the CEO of the Center for Literacy and Learning will be speaking at the Baton Rouge Press Club. On Thursday, the State Bond Commission will meet to go over state expenses and projects. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm Fred Childers. Stay safe, stay informed. I'll see you next Sunday right here on your local election headquarters.